Still morning. Good morning, everybody. My name's Ed Schmaltz. I'm the CEO of Calyx Peak. We are a multi-state operator, and if there's three things I want you to walk away from if someone asks you in the hall, it's the following. One, say that company has a good group of suits and stoners. I don't mean that in a derogatory fashion to either name, but we got a good mix of business people and industry people who have been dedicating their lives to this plant, in some cases for decades. And I think that's really important to have that mix. We're working to build brands that matter. My background is Patagonia, FAO Schwartz, REI. I've been privileged to be around brands that make a difference and that stand for something. There are a lot of manufactured brands in this industry. When you scratch the surface, there's nothing there. So we're working really hard to build brands with an edge. And the last thing is, we'll be profitable, EBITDA positive next year. If the sun shines early in March, we think we'll hit it around May, which is a little radical for an MSO in this business, but we think that's important. We're combining, I think, the best of the new economy with a heavy data focus, which I'll touch on in a minute, but also some old school business around a drive to profitability. It's important. We should be profitable in this business. It may be a point of differentiation for us relative to some of our competitors, but it's a discipline that's important to infuse in a company at a very early stage. We did $100,000 in 2018. We're on track for $21 million in 2019, and we expect to hit $42 million next year. That's all off of our base business. It doesn't assume any assumptions on we're going to find a pot of gold somewhere, we're going to open 5 new states. That's off our base business. And if you doubt that, that $21 million is driven by bulk sales and jarred product only. We're just now moving into manufactured and extracted products to have a full product selection. So our origin story, 4 friends with global equity experience. We're really strong with finance. And they early on realized they needed to bring in people with different skill sets, and we've done, I think, an excellent job of doing that. You guys know about the state of the industry here, so I think I'll skip over this. Huge opportunity. Cowan's at $80 billion. Strong brands are going to capture market share. What we're seeing right now is that number of states you're in and number of licenses have really declined as a driver of value, and people are pivoting to focus on brands, which is what they should be doing. There's a lot of sameness out there, very difficult to cut through all the chaff and find what's really important from a brand perspective. There's little functional differentiation. People are marketing the same way. Brands are fighting for authenticity, which is important. And then there's no dominant leaders in retail. Home delivery is coming, and so is e-commerce, but e-commerce will take a while. We've put a really strong team in place. We've won licenses in every state that we've applied in. We've also been able to find distressed assets over the last 3 years. Cultivation skills are really important in this industry. I can't tell you how often I hear, oh, we spent a ton of money on our grow facility and we're getting crap coming out the door. We've been very fortunate to have very strong genetics and very strong growth skills. Our first harvest in California, we took it up to the Emerald Cup, the Academy Awards of Weed. We won 2nd and 9th place out of 340 entrants. And just recently, last month in Ohio, we grew a strain, hit 35% THC. I'd never heard of anything that high. That's particularly important in Ohio because people walk into dispensaries and say, they don't care about brand. They say, what's the highest THC? And we've sold out of that product. By the way, our market share in Ohio, we estimate at 26%, and we're just about to hit the market with extracted products. We got 4 brands that are either in the market or pending. Normally, I like to focus. Having 8, 10 brands, I think, is nuts. 4 makes me a little uncomfortable, but this market is so fluid, I don't yet know where to place my bet. Premium, discount, all adult use, all health and wellness, so we're playing in those categories. We talk a lot about ESG at Calyx Peak, environment, social and governance issues. We're working hard on supply chain visibility. Not a lot of companies are doing that. We think it's particularly important with all the vape crisis in the news. A board of advisors, I just want to mention this quickly. These aren't just pretty faces on our website. All of these gentlemen have been I've either met with them or spoken to them in the last 3 months. John Chang was the former state treasurer of California. Dave was the former insurance commissioner. Both have been instrumental in helping us get on strong financial footing and our insurance in order. Keith Dawkins has been a terrific asset for us. He was at Viacom, EVP, ran some of the Nickelodeon channels. He's our media guy. And Damien is a world-class cultivator who's in our facilities constantly. So a national footprint, we're in California, Nevada, Ohio, and soon to be Massachusetts. We're just waiting on the CCC for final permitting of our cultivation and extraction facility in Worcester, and we're looking for 3 retail stores in Massachusetts. We're running a store in Oakland called Magnolia. It's a real treasure. We're taking some operational improvements there, but we're really excited about having our first operational retail store. We were awarded a license to manage a store in Santa Monica. We're waiting on resolution of some protests by some of the people who didn't win that selection process. We hope that's resolved swiftly. Bulk of our operations are currently in California. So, differentiators, we think we got a proven model. We're just executing well, really focused on our business. Our strategy is national, but really in California and Massachusetts for adult use and Ohio for medical. We're not trying to go to 20 states right away. There's way too much overhead. I don't think that's an appropriate strategy, particularly if you want to be profitable in the near term. And we're focused, as I said at the beginning, in brands that matter. Brands with an edge, because they're going to gain market share. It happens in every other industry. Cannabis is no different. So here's the 4 brands that I'm talking about. On the left side, you have price, high and low, and on the horizontal axis, health and wellness and adult use. So Josh D is our premium brand. Josh basically is the originator of OG Kush, the dominant strain on the West Coast by far, if you add in all its associated strains. Song is our health and wellness brand. Local, more of a traditional cannabis brand, really focused on kind of what's new and trending. I equate it with my background at Patagonia, sort of a fashion brand. And then Magnolia will be our house brand, only sold in our own retail stores, letting us capture margin from lower quality biomass. We'll sell that at a low price at the cash register, drive point of sale, drive UPT and AOV at retail. So here they all are. I'm not sure if you can read this. To the left is products more similar to CPG, and the right, products more cannabis category specific. To the left, more effect-driven, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. And to the right, more strain-driven. So Josh D, here's Josh himself. He's normally a happy guy. He looks kind of stern here. We're in 107 stores in Southern California, just beginning to shift to Northern California. He spent his life growing OG Kush. We think we grow the best OG Kush in the market. They're all descended from the original mother that he's been tending since 1996. And as I said, it's the #1 strain on the West Coast, and we're very excited to be able to bring this out in new form factors, pre-rolls, sauce-infused pre-rolls, sauce. We're looking at vapes, proceeding cautiously with that for obvious reasons. But we intend to be a dominant player in California with the Josh D brand for the connoisseur. Touched on this a little bit, genetics and his heritage. Here's the product packaging. We think we've got terrific packaging and a high-quality product. That's vital. There's a lot of terrific packaging with kind of so-so product, and we, as I said, are excited to be coming to market with the quality product that we are. Song. So here's where it gets interesting for us. This is Dr. Paul Song. He's our chief medical officer, a radiation oncologist by training. Saw firsthand the effect of cannabis in the last 2 years of his father's cancer journey. It was the only thing that improved his quality of life and helped him deal with the ravages of chemo and radiation. So it's personal for Paul. We have found a database with over 1.3 million use cases, cannabis use cases, with what it was used for, what the efficacy was, what brand was used, and the chemical profile of that particular product. We were very excited about this, as you might imagine. We ran some of our strains through to figure out what is our strain best used for. And OG Kush, for example, we ran it through and made a startling discovery. OG Kush showed indexed well above a typical cannabis strain for pain for men. It had almost no effect for a woman. We were stunned. We looked at it for some other conditions. Anxiety works great for a woman, almost no effect for a man. We went through a number of other conditions, and it was consistent. Women have endocannabinoid receptors on their uterus. Men don't. What does that mean? We don't know yet, because the research hasn't been done. But the effects show up clearly in this database. So what we are doing, as you might imagine, is coming to market very soon with gender-specific formulations for the top conditions for cannabis under the Song brand. We're also in conversations with a national drugstore chain to bring this for CBD to a national audience more quickly. We chose anxiety, insomnia, pain, and inflammation as 4 of the top 5 conditions. We're not touching depression, at least not yet, what I think are obvious reasons. And we're pretty excited about being able to change the conversation, certainly around efficacy, but also to bring some real-world science and evidence to bear. We do have to be careful with claims, and we think we're on the right track for that. The result is we think the cannabis experience can be standardized, certainly for health and wellness, and we're working on this for recreation. We think it can be customized to the customer. We're working on steps 2 and 3 already, which would be age segmentation as well as ethnicity. There may be differences in how an Asian versus a European versus an African person respond to cannabis, particularly for health and wellness, and we want to do this. Mass customization is broadly accepted in the economy. Nike does over $1 billion a year with customized sneakers. This is not a new concept. Big Farm is working to do this for drugs, and we think it's certainly very appropriate for cannabis. And we intend to be a disruptor very aggressively into the market with a product that just works better because it's geared toward your gender. Growth opportunity for us. We're we've signed an agreement for a facility in Santa Ana to enhance our distribution capability as well as do indoor grow, R&D center away from our Carpinteria facility. We've got license applications in for 10 licenses in the state of Missouri. We should hear by year end for that. And I mentioned Massachusetts. Of course, we'll target additional states selectively. New York and New Jersey look particularly attractive due to population density and potential regulatory market there. We're seeing a ton of deal flow now. It's really interesting. That's been instrumental in how we've built this company. We're looking carefully. There's a lot of good and some bad out there, but we're seeing opportunities in distribution, in retail, in cultivation, throughout the supply chain. So we're taking a hard look at that. And we think brand licensing, an asset-light model in states where we don't have licenses, is particularly relevant for us, given the brand differentiators that we have, both for Josh D and for Song. We're in the market right now for a $25 million capital raise. We've raised about $2.5 million to date. We have indications probably closer to 5 total now. The use of funds, expansion of our greenhouse in Carpinteria, some acquisition capital, about $9 million, the bulk of it to our Massachusetts build out, and some additional working capital needs as well as expansion of our Nevada facility. This is a little hard to read. I'm going to show you some numbers here. Again, this is off of our base case, $21 million this year, the bulk of it coming out of California. Next year, $42 million. You see a positive EBITDA number there. We're quite proud of that. I'm not familiar with running a company that loses hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm not about to have this one be the first. Despite the popularity of unicorns and all this stuff. We've seen that's ended badly for most of those companies. So we're going to run a fundamentally sound business. We're going to build brands that matter, and we're just going to keep our heads down and keep working. These numbers with $103 million in 2021, again, reflect a base business. We're not adding anything new here. We're not making any claims, new licenses, new opportunities. That's the next slide. If we add new states, product innovations, asset acquisition, particularly retail stores, our retail strategy is not to have hundreds of stores. Our objective is probably maybe 8 to 10 in California, geographically dispersed, brand outposts in key regions. Our stores would probably run about 50% of the revenue, our own brands, and 50% other brands. Think about a good retailer. You want to come in and discover something new every time. And that's a new small brand, that's a local grower, it's a minority business in there, giving them a stage to show their product. These things are important to do for the retail experience and for the industry, and that's how we're going to run our stores. We also view the retail network, for example, in California, 8 to 10 stores, as distribution outposts for home delivery, because that's coming. Ohio might be a smaller number. Massachusetts, we're limited to 3. We're going to have 3. It's a more focused retail strategy, very similar to what Patagonia does, and from my experience there. If we combine the base business and the new revenue streams, we approach $300 million by 2022 with robust EBITDA margins. So that is who we are as a business. Strong team, brands that matter, profitability in 2020. Those are I think the 3 key points that make us different than a lot of our competitors. I have 3 minutes left for questions. Or not. Well, we're still private. We're raising, we're raising at $180 million. For the first 10 million of the 25. The second 15 would be at about $200 million raise. We've looked at that. One of our co-founders is Goldman's former equity analyst for Samsung. So we've modeled that 8 ways from Sunday, discounted cash flow. We've done all sorts of M&A analysis and market analysis, and we think that's a pretty fair valuation, even in this current depressed market. Yes, sir. Well, it was interesting. Early on, we thought, well before I got here, the founders determined that California was going to be where you wanted to be, and made efforts to be in California, and that proved a very wise decision. Massachusetts is also looking like probably the best place so far to be on the East Coast for a number of factors. So rather than try to add 5 more states, we really want to get our brands nailed out in the market and creating a story and creating value in those states, and we'll figure out additional states down the road as appropriate. But I like the licensing model. You know, I come out of the apparel business. All of your glasses that people are wearing are licensed. A lot of your clothes are licensed. Somebody just gives their brand to somebody, they do all the work, and that person collects a licensing fee. So if we do our brands right, we'll have licensing options, an asset-light strategy that I think is appealing now in new, potentially profitable states. All right, a minute. I've given you a minute. I've given you a minute. Oh, one more. Yes, sir.
Where do you see your R&D in the genetic compatibility with cannabinoids, and your research in that? How far along do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, the important word to think about there is partner. We're going to look for, we've already got this one partner we're working with, and we're going to be hiring data scientists to help us do that. It's not something that's in my wheelhouse, so I'm smart enough to know I need other people to help me do that. I think that is going to be vital to our success, and for a lot of companies in this market, it's 2019. You've got to bring science to bear and provide products in a form factor, at a price point, at a freshness level, and at a performance factor that meet the customer's needs. And the last generation of our path, from gender to age to ethnicity, would be full customization. What works for anxiety for you, and have a feedback loop, because over time you're going to get your tolerance is going to rise. So we need to be continually adjusting your dosage to achieve the desired effect. The same can be true for recreational market as well, to make sure if you go out with 3 or 4 friends that you're all sharing the same experience. And I think that's where this market is going. or a big chunk of it, anyway. All right, thank you all very much.